So this is going to be a real quick first review, first impression. Sorry, I have a throat thing going on. This will be a first impression of the E3D Hemera / Hermes / whatever they're calling it this week. This little puppy right here. Short thing, it's really nice. There are two things that I have issues with that are minor. They really are. I'm just nitpicking a little bit. But, well, one of them is kind of, I don't know. Anyways, watch the video. Let's go to it. First thing, it's awesome. Direct drive or Bowden. It's geared. There's a million videos out about it already. I love it. I have yet to have a jam. I've only been running about a week. I have two of them. I got one from my brother for Christmas a week ago. And I actually won one. And I'll put the gentleman's name up that had the contest, because thanks. That was awesome. Because I'm kind of broke and I really wanted one and didn't know I was getting one, and now I got two, which is totally awesome because I definitely have two printers I could put it on, and I'll be very happy about putting them on. Anyways, to the actual review. It works really well. It's direct drive, it's gear driven. If you look at it, it's actually one of my favorite old style extruder layouts. It's an MK8 layout. I mean, it's really not an MK8, but I've been saying that repeatedly, that it's basically the MK8 layout. Motor on the side, you know, motor here, heat sink here, you know, hot end going through, real short filament path from the gears, which are almost right here dead center, to the actual hot end. It's awesome. I'm not the biggest fan of all metal hot ends. I run mostly PLA. PLA is better off with a lined hot end. You don't need the high temperatures. It's less likely to jam, especially if you're into Bowden, because you're doing the long extrusions. So what people don't realize is when you got an all-metal hot end, if you have to do a long extrusion, you know, if you get over like 8 or 10 millimeters, that's the thickness of your heat block. You're getting the hot filament up into the actual heat break cold area, and it'll harden, and then you get a jam. If you have a line, it won't do that. Even if it hardens a little bit, it'll still break free of the PTFE2. I have yet to have a jam with this thing. It's worked flawlessly. Now, I've only been doing it for about a week. I haven't done a lot of prints. I have done a few big prints. It's just been flawless. I love the thing. There are two things I dislike about it. And the first one I'm going to get into is an easy swap out. The fan. This fan is freaking loud. I don't know why. I mean, I do. It works. This thing pushes a lot of air. From looking at it and listening to it, this is actually a faster RPM fan. I'm just guessing. I don't know for sure. Than most of your fans are this size. I immediately, within 2 minutes of testing it, took it off and I put one of these on. Now, yes, this is a Noctura fan, which normally pushes less air. And this thing definitely needs air. The way this is designed, direct extruder, it needs to have air. You can't just slap a regular Noctura on there. This is a double thick Noctura. If you look, it's a 20 millimeter thick. This is a 10 millimeter thick. This is your standard 40-40 fan. This is a 20-40-40 fan. They're usually only $2 or $3 more. The hard part is finding them and the voltage. They're out there. It's just they're sold out or whatever. There are other companies. I can't remember what that one is. They're not quite as quiet. They push more air. I will probably be putting one of those on instead of this. These also come in 5 volt, 12 volt, but they do not come in 24 volt. If you go to 24 volt, you have to go to, I'll put the name up. I can't remember the name, but you can get them. They're just, Noctura doesn't make a 24 volt one of these unless they just started. They didn't when I was doing it. Highly, highly recommend putting a quieter fan on. This thing is freaking loud. It's really, really loud. The other thing is a plus minus. These mounting holes on the side of the block. Now, they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's a freaking brilliant idea. Saves a lot of hardware and wrapping and figuring out how to mount. Personally, I'd like to see the motor a little smaller. I have a feeling they probably will. You really don't need this big of a motor. It'll make things better, but for now, it's fine. It's heavy, but it's not extremely heavy. But the biggest thing is these slots and the little screw they use, and I'll actually go to a close-up. There's not a lot of space, and the screw is very thin. So when you screw into it, not only do you have not a lot of thread catching that little itty bitty nut, I think I said bolt before, it's a nut. The bolt goes into the nut. Not only do you not have a lot catching the nut, but there's no space beyond the nut, so you can't countersink the bolt past the nut. If you do, you'll actually hit the casing, and I'll see if I can zoom in here. You'll hit the casing back here, and instead of tightening to the case, the bolt will tighten to the case here and push the nut out, and you can actually break these. Matter of fact, I've heard a couple of reports. One of them, very famous, Tom Filament Frenzy, did it. Now, I don't know if that's what he did. He said he over-tightened it, but I have a feeling if you over-tighten it, you're just clamping down on it, and you're squeezing it, it probably wouldn't break it. The only way to actually break this little nub in the motor is to have that bolt hit the housing before the bolt head is catching on the mount. Does that make sense? I'll do a little diagram to show you. And that pushes the nut out instead of trapping it. And there's nothing, it's not actually holding to the mount yet because there's still more bolt. And it just blows this little thin piece out here, right here. So that's kind of a bummer. It is not a deal breaker. What I have done, and again I'll take a picture, and I kind of wanted to anyways, I actually used an even a little bit longer screw. Now they supply some of the screws with it for a standard, I think they say 5mm thick mount. I actually went with a I think it's 5mm mount, but then I inset the screw to so there's only 3mm material. So I have 2mm of excess screw. And I just use washers. And I padded this off the mount. Now I mounted all 4 locations using 3 washers. 2 is my 2mm, they're almost exactly a millimeter thick. They're actually a little less. When I got to my 3rd one, it gives me a little pad. It also pads the whole motor off of the flat surface, and it's printed, so if this ever gets hot, it's got some airflow, blah, blah, blah. I used all 4, so I'm not worried about it being a weak joint. But really, that's my only complaint, is the mounting system. I really wish... I wish they'd make this pocket a little bit deeper somehow, or make a countersink, or I'm not sure what. Do something so you can use a little bit bigger. I mean, personally, I would like to be able to see a lock nut being able to be used in here. It's kind of big, and I don't know if you could do it and keep the form factor and all that. You'd probably have to make these bump out. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Others might. The whole flat form factory thing, it's kind of iffy. But yeah, if you go to mount one of these, be very, very, very careful. Test. When you feel it start tightening, look inside the slot and make sure the bolt isn't hitting the casing before the nut is tightening, because then you'll just blow it apart. But other than that, oh my God, I love this thing. This is, I've said it a million times, I am not a E3D, oh, I gotta have that fanboy. There's been no product from E3D that they came out with that, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like E3D a lot. They designed some of the nicest stuff, real high quality. People knock it off and sell it for half the price, but their stuff is better quality, hands down. But I've never looked at anything and said, I need that. This came out, and I said, I need that. you know. And then I started saying reviews, and I went, oh my God, did I need that? And now I got two of them. I'm real happy about that. Good, really, really well designed, really well thought out. I think this is the best product so far that E3D has come out with, to be honest. This is the first thing I ever really wanted when I saw it. So, yeah, that's it. Nice extruder. I've only been running it for a week. I don't know what its long term is, but it's got plenty of power. Runs really smooth. It's quiet other than the fan. I highly recommend replacing the fan. That's about it. Go get yourself one.